One man is in jail tonight after what police are calling a crazy crime spree near Airline in McCardle.
Yeah, he's accused of breaking into cars and committing an aggravated robbery. Our Michelle Pedraza joins us live to explain. Michelle.
Mackenzie, Joe, police say that Tyler Griffin was caught breaking into cars in this parking lot at Catfish Charlie's around 8 this morning. But minutes before that, they say he was also involved in 2 aggravated robberies in the area. After almost 2 hours of breaking into homes and cars around Sunrise Mall, 24-year-old Tyler Griffin is behind bars. The Corpus Christi Police Department says the suspect targeted a home at the 5700 block of Cordelia, where he stole documents plus the homeowner's clothes, adding that Griffin was wearing them when he was arrested.
He's got some property, didn't have it on him, he had it in a bag, so we have an investigation and trying to look into that and try to determine what was taken and from where and from who.
Just minutes later, the 24-year-old was spotted outside a home on the 1000th block of Shields Drive. A homeowner was leaving his home when he saw Griffin inside a vehicle that police say did not belong to him. The homeowner asked the suspect what he was doing there, and Griffin quickly pulled out a knife. Later on, just after 8 o'clock, a witness called police reporting that a man was breaking into cars around Catfish Charlie's on McCardle and Airline. That witness told police he first asked the suspect, 24-year-old Tyler Griffin, what he was doing, who responded he was waiting for a ride. But minutes later, the witness saw him trying to break into a truck in the parking lot. When police arrived, the suspect had left, but not for long.
And as they were completing the paperwork, the alleged suspect in the case, showed back up on scene.
That's when the witness pointed him out to police, causing Griffin to get scared and run away. After chasing him, police took Griffin down just up the road near Acapulco Restaurant. And Griffin was first checked out by medics here at the scene before taken into custody, and he's been charged with multiple charges. Let me read them to you. One of them is burglary of habitation, 3 counts of burglary to a vehicle, unlawfully carrying a weapon, unlawfully possession of a firearm of a felon, aggravated robbery, possession of marijuana, and evading arrest. Reporting live from McCardle, Michelle Pedraza, 3 News.